Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Planet Sport Live. We are back again with another show. We're bringing you the same two presenters with me. We have another 45 minutes of sporting action to go through. So let's welcome the other two. Say hello, guys.
Hey guys.
Hello.
There we are. So enthusiastic. So enthusiastic. So how have we been? How are we feeling after the first episode of the live show? How we feel did it go?
Content? Yeah, I'm happy. I think it went well. I think there's lots to work on. I think as a unit, we put out a good display, and we're just ready to go forward again. It's just time to step it up a level.
Yeah, I think so.
Spoken like a true sports person.
Yeah, I think it went well. Apart from Tom's dismissal of Tom Brady.
Well, it's good that you mentioned that because that's what we're going to be starting off the show with today. Now, if anyone watched the previous episode, you'll know that we sort of left it off on a difference of opinion. A little bit of what I said was bait, but it's all in good jest. So we're going to play a clip right now just to recap everyone of actually what went down. And then we'll be probably continuing the debate for a little bit of time as well, just to start off the show. So, producers, roll the clip, please.
So by this, you would say Eliud Kipchoge is the greatest athlete of all time. Because he's running 2 hours, running the longest distance for the longest time at the fastest pace.
Which is not, it's not a slight on America, by the way. I genuinely, their geographical skills are awful. 250 million Ronaldo has got, right? And Messi's got something similar. You can't compare them. I'm sorry, you can't compare them at all.
Nobody's someone won every single curling event for 50 years, right? What if they work for 50
We haven't got
years?
time for that discussion, Sam. We haven't got time for
domination.
We've run out of time. We've run out of time.
We'll have to come back to it in the next episode.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to be proved wrong.
I don't think we're done here because...
Yeah. Right, so Matt, you said we're not done. So what did you want to add to what you were going to say?
Well, it's not necessarily about what I wanted to add about that. It was more just kind of we didn't agree. We didn't agree that it was. Look, all I want to say is that Tom Brady is up there. He's up there. He's won 7 Super Bowls, and the most that any club has ever won is 6. Like that, to me, that's crazy. The way that American football works, kind of, once you're with one club, you're kind of with them for most of the time, and then until you become a free agent. And the fact that he's been able to have that effect on the Buccaneers is mental to me. And I think to discount him from that conversation because he's only got 9 million followers or whatever is crazy. All I wanted to say really was that the greatest athlete of all time, Eliud Kipchoge, if we're kind of going on physical kind of, he runs a marathon in just over 2 hours. That's crazy to me as an athlete that he should be kind of respected as one of the greatest of all time because of the way that he performs compared to sportsmen. I think sportsman and athlete, they are different. Sportsman, I feel like it encompasses a lot of other things kind of on the pitch, off the pitch. Athlete, I feel like athlete kind of encompasses people who are at the very game physically. Eliud Kipchoge kind of embodies that personally, from a personal point of view. But, Tom, I know that we disagreed a little bit last time, and you wanted to see that people who were kind of known throughout the game, sort of Ronaldo, Messi, kind of 250 million followers across the board. I kind of want to, we should go toe to toe on this.
Yeah, my biggest gripe with this was when you had a lot of American news outlets, sports news outlets, saying he's like, one of the biggest sports stars of all time, one of the greatest of all time. And then I think they had him on the similar graphic to like Christian Pulisic, right? And it's very similar to an article that I saw written about Christian Pulisic by an American sports outlet. saying that he was one of the best footballers in the world. And I think for me, it just sort of represents an attitude of self-importance, which I don't necessarily like. Now, granted, there might be people sitting here saying, okay, well, he's only saying that because he doesn't like the way Americans do things. And yeah, you'd be absolutely spot on. I don't. So that's pretty much the only reason why um, I sort of laughed at the greatest sportsman thing.
Can I say, I know I'm not
I
on
do
the screen,
think from an
but
yeah,
there's something you said there that just
keep it that
blew
way.
my mind. Christian Pulisic, yeah, all right, he's not Messi, Ronaldo level, but proportionally, Christian Pulisic is one of the best players in the world. He plays for Chelsea in the Premier League, in the Champions League.
He's not one of the best players in the world.
Oh, Tom, if people play
God,
football...
are we seriously going to be saying that Christian Pulisic is one of the best players in the world?
No, Tom, what I'm saying is proportionally, and this is the debate that you're trying to have, that you're struggling to comprehend with from me and Matt, is that you're saying that Tom Brady isn't the GOAT across all sports because he's got 9 million followers and only so many people play American football, but proportionally, right, then he is, the very best at his sport ever. So he has to be in that conversation where, if you were to put it across and say Tom Brady would probably rank how high up in a proper sport that's played all across the world, if you opened it up like football, Christian Pulisic is in the top, let's say, 300, which proportionally is ridiculous because almost 200 countries on the planet play football. Top 300 people in the world.
Top 300,
that's
literally.
Bonkers.
Top 300 out of however many billions of people who play football or know about football or kind of care about football. That's crazy. And you're there arguing that Pulisic is not a relevant player in this discussion.
Well, I didn't say
to
that
Americans
he's a relevant
as well.
player.
He's the greatest thing ever.
To say that he's one of the best players in the world implies that he's one of the elite players, which he is not. When we talk about the best footballers in the world, we don't talk about the top 300 footballers proportionally, let's be honest. So to sort of bring that argument in, I don't think makes much sense, because if we're talking about, if football fans talk about the best footballers in the world, if we then start saying, well, proportionately, Ruben Neves is in the top 300 players in the world, so he's one of the best players in the world. To be honest, I don't really think that you can make that case. I don't think that. And don't get me wrong. I even said at the last. I said at the end of the last episode, that full credit to Tom Brady. It's like Lewis Hamilton in Formula One. What he's achieved is brilliant. But I just don't. I think sometimes I think it's been blown out of the water. I think greatest athlete, not necessarily greatest sportsman. Like we said, they're different things. Greatest sportsman, that's fine. But it was the greatest athlete thing that I was like, well, he's not really much of an athlete. They play about 20 minutes, half an hour. Granted, it's a very physical sport, but by that sense, I think rugby is probably more physical. They've got a lot less padding.
So we all agreed then that greatest athlete as a question goes to Matt, say his name because I'm just going to butcher it.
Eliud Kipchoge.
So we all agreeing that he's the greatest athlete because his accomplishment is like nobody else has done it, right? Under 2 hours for a marathon.
In terms of an athletic achievement, yeah. I'd just because.
So then, is the debate, how much of a sports person he is? Because all you see of him, I know at the time that he did the sub 2 hour marathon, he was on like the front cover of GQ and Vogue and stuff like that, doing posing for the front covers. But other than that, you don't see him. Does that make him an athlete? But someone like Mo Farah, who's got a knighthood promo for Quorn, does that make him a sports person just because he's got a life outside of what he does? Because I would say, personally, that Marcus Rashford is a sports person, but Lionel Messi, you never see in the media. Does that make him an athlete?
I agree.
Paul Scholes, was he a sports person or an athlete? He played football for Manchester United, Champions League finals, right? Hits the world stage. As many people as you can have are seeing him, right? Sports person, because that many people are seeing him, or athlete, because he's never personally, during his career, done media stuff. Retired from international football to be closer to his family.
Well, I think you can. I think you can probably judge people on both, to be honest. How they are as a sports person, how they are as an athlete. So, for example, like you said, Marcus Rashford would probably be considered would be considered maybe quote unquote better sportsman, if that's how you want to say it. It's not really the right word to use, but I'm trying to get across a point. So, you could say Marcus Rashford is a better sports person than Messi, but is Rashford a better athlete than Messi? Or, things with football, you don't necessarily have to be an amazing athlete to be the best player, but it certainly helped them. If you look at players like Ronaldo, he's just unbelievable. The athleticism he has at his age, he's 35, 36 now, I think. And he's got the body of, a 24, 25-year-old. He's in amazing condition. That's why he's at the top. Messi maybe isn't as athletically gifted, but I think, that's just a natural talent. He's sort of a freak. I think you look at players like Kylian Mbappe, Erling Haaland at the moment, both very athletic players, very physically gifted. Mbappe is very quick. Haaland is quick and strong. He's tall. It's one of those where I think you can separate the two. You can look at someone as a sports person and as an athlete. And for them to say he's the greatest athlete, because I saw quite a few saying outright he was the greatest athlete ever. Now, for me, that doesn't quite sit right in the sense that I don't consider them as good as athletes as people in other sport, because they just don't simply play long enough. 20 minutes of football, American football, for me, it doesn't playing that amount of sport.
I'm not
doesn't make you a fantastic. And I know it's the length of time. It shouldn't be the length of time. It should be how physically demanding the sport is. Because, for example, basketball, very physically demanding sport, but the players themselves don't actually play for a massive amount of time. But I don't know. But I wouldn't consider basketball players maybe in the greatest athletes. But some of them you could, because of the amount of jumping and the power it takes to get through players and stuff. But you can see what I mean. I think my argument is a bit flawed.
I think that's incredibly harsh on basketball. And basketballers, I don't know. They jump like ridiculous heights. They run and sprint.
I think we've lost Sam.
Their entire sport, right, is incredible.
Sam.
High octane,
Mike's on mute there.
Sprinting up and down, jumping, throwing. Football, by comparison, is just running about a little bit lazily. Sometimes you've got to sprint, but if you're left wing, right, you don't have to do anything for 15 minutes if the ball's all down the right hand channel. You're just kicking ball around. That's easy. And I went very Yorkshire there. The thing I wanted to say is
kicking ball around.
Kicking ball around.
Nobody will ever be as good as Tom Brady has been in the NFL. Nobody will ever be as good as Ronaldo, Messi have ever been. There's sort of like levels. And I think athletes and sports people, that debate's for people who care about linguistics. We care about the sport, right? Yeah, and I think if you go across the world, you're going to get people putting basketballers at the top. I've just been reading before we came on. There's an ice hockey player who was at the top of 50 all time. Wayne Gretzky was ranked by like an official poll. They'd done all of the data crunching in it. Ice hockey. We didn't even think about that last time. So I think,
we don't necessarily. I don't think.
I think there's so many sports, and I think one of the questions you've got to ask is how is. I know we're kind of all we're all in kind of disagreement. There's a lot of things to take in, but is anyone ever going to be as dominant as Tom Brady is to NFL as he is to American football? Is anyone going to be that dominant force in sport where they are the kind of greatest of all time? You know, you've got Messi and Ronaldo. It's debated whether who is the best footballer of all time. You know, maybe you can look at Ronaldo and go, yeah, he is one of the greatest of all time. Messi, he is gifted as a football player. He is one of the greatest of all time. Whereas Tom Brady, there is no discussion whether who is the greatest of all time in NFL. And, you know, I think that's one of the things that we've got to look at is anyone going to be as dominant in their own sport as Tom Brady is to NFL?
Yeah, I think he ranks 30
exactly.
to 50.
We're going to have to move on.
That's his area.
We're going to have to move on.
Muhammad Ali's the greatest.
And we're going to have shush. We're going to move on to the next section.
In that discussion.
Oh, my days. I can't do this, man. I'm trying to move. The producers are trying to tell me to move on the show, and you two are ruining it for me. Yeah, let's move on to the next bit, which ironically should have been the part which was a bit more fiery, but probably won't be, because we can both accept that our teams are a bit pants.
Yeah. Amen.
But the producers have decided that, as usual, they want to stir the pot because they've got nothing better to do with their sad little lives. Right? They sit there behind their computer screens giggling and go, "Oh, it's here, you Newcastle Wolves. Oh, let's get these two up against each other." So, as some of the viewers of the show may know, Newcastle Wolves are playing tonight at 8 p.m. Right, and so I'm a big Wolves fan, as you can see. Grand Theft Porto. Thanks to Talking Wolves for this lovely number. I'm trying to turn it the right way. You've got all the players there that we've raided from Porto. And Newcastle are sponsored by Fun88. So it's going to be an interesting game, to say the least. Is this a must-win for both teams? Because Wolves have sort of pulled away from the relegation race. Or the relegation battle. We were really struggling up until the last few games, really. We're unbeaten in 4. We've won 3 of those. Newcastle, on the other hand, have won 2 of their last 5, 2 defeats in a row. So it is very much a mixed bag of form. I think Wolves are very much on the up. Newcastle are still very much sort of plummeting, really. I think it's 2 wins in their last 10, 8 defeats. It's not looking good for Newcastle, is it, Matt?
No, it's not at all. And I think, you know, it's a tricky one to say because at the end of the day, I mean, I look at the likes of Fulham, West Brom, Sheffield United, and I think they're the teams that deserve to go down. Whereas I look at Newcastle and I think we've got a team, but we just don't have that. We're just not. It's a hard one to say, but we're not striking in that kind of way. We're not performing in that way that we want to. Whereas we've got a squad. We've got, you know, the likes of Wilson. We've got many players on the field that should be performing well, but we're just not quite striking that right balance of we're not getting the results that we need to get at the end of the day. And I think that comes down to a lot of things. And I think the managerial side is definitely in question from a fan's point of view. You know, Steve Bruce, we've seen whilst he's done good things in the past, as a kind of looking at the performances so far, as a side, we've not performed to the level that we should do given the squad that we've got. And I think being 17th position in, you know, 3 points off the relegation zone, if we don't win this match, then it kind of, there's the potential for us to be kind of down there in the relegation zone. I just don't think with the squad that we've got, that's kind of a position that we should be in.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think this is one of Newcastle's best teams that they've had in a while, really. I still think Eddie Howe would have been a really good shout for their managerial position when you consider the players that they've got. Fraser and Wilson did fantastically under Eddie Howe. They're one of the best partnerships in the Premier League. So you sort of have to wonder why they gave Steve Bruce so much money and not Rafa Benitez. For me, it was a bit of a head scratcher because as soon as Bruce was brought in, 40 million on Joe Linton, 35 on Sam Maximin. You know, they're spending big money on good players, and I think Rafa Benitez would have definitely got top half with this team. It is a very decent squad. Granted, you have Newcastle have been quite unlucky with injuries.
Yeah, especially COVID and long COVID.
Yeah,
especially
Callum
with long
Wilson.
COVID.
Yeah, Callum Wilson has been very, very unlucky with injury, and Fabian Schär, I think, has been out with injury as well. Who's
Yeah.
a fantastic centre back for you, and Martin Dubravka as well. Let's not forget. So there are some key players that have been out for Newcastle, as is with Wolves, really. Now, of course, some very good news actually coming out of Nuno's press conference yesterday, which I don't know whether anyone watched it, but he said that Raul Jimenez will return this season for Wolves, which is pretty much goes against everyone's expectations, really. I think we all sort of just assumed that he would be out for the season, and that we would have to wait until next season, but he's already back in individual training. And it looks like he could be joining team training as early as next week. So definitely things are looking on the up for Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
Willy Bolly is
Definitely.
still out injured, but it's going to be an interesting game. Both styles of football can be quite defensive, but Wolves in recent games have started to play more on the front foot. So if there's any particular weaknesses in Newcastle's team, where would you sort of place them at?
I mean, I think we have this kind of, the classic Brucey Ball approach where we pass it round the back. We don't really seem to get that much through in the midfield as well. Especially we kind of long ball through to whoever, try and make that attacking thing, and we just don't really capitalise on that. And I think Alan Saint-Maximin coming down with long COVID, his troubles that he's continuously had with kind of injury and long COVID has been a problem that we've had, because his kind of distribution and the fact that he creates so many chances in the middle and up front for us has been a tricky one to kind of handle. I mean, we're only 3 points off the relegation zone, so it's been a difficult one, especially with so many injuries. And I think John Joe Shelby in the middle, he's kind of good at distributing the ball, but we just don't really create those chances that at the end of the day are going to lead to sort of goals. And I think if you look at Wolves, kind of, it's kind of a must-win goal for them to kind of get back up into that sort of European football zone for them, being in the bottom half of the table at the moment. And I think both teams, realistically, it's going to be a game that they're really going to be targeting winning. And it's going to be a tricky one.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those where Wolves in particular, we have improved the past few weeks. I think we've sort of put Dharma Traore and Pedro Neto a bit more in field, which has helped our fullbacks get forward, or our wing backs get forward a lot easier. Nelson Semedo, a player that really has divided the Wolves fan base this year. A lot of people don't seem to think he's an upgrade on Doherty, which, if you've watched him play for Spurs, I think is a ridiculous argument. I think Nelson Semedo is a far, far better player. And he's been deployed in a very similar role to Joao Cancelo at Manchester City, where Nuno has clearly told him to sort of free roam off the right-hand side. He comes in a lot more into attacking spaces. He has a lot more shots. And it just gives us an extra option, because if Semedo comes in field, Adama Traore can go on the outside. They're both obviously insanely quick, physically gifted, and to be honest, technically gifted. I think Nelson Semedo is really good on the ball. I think he carries the ball well upfield, and he gives us a really good outlet to burst from. And the return of Johnny as well, which a lot of neutral fans might not really understand, but Johnny for us has been an absolute stalwart in defence, superb at left wing back. Brings so much balance to the side. I think we've played about 5 different left backs this season, but Johnny comes in straight away from a 6th-month injury and gets a 7 out of 10 every game. And he's been superb since he's come back. He's been easily our best left back already, and he's only been back for 2 or 3 games. It shows the importance, I guess, of players to a system. So, Matt, if there's a particular danger man, I guess, for Newcastle, if there are any, what would you pin those down to? What weaknesses in Wolves could you see Newcastle exploit?
I mean, I can't say I've studied Wolves' defence particularly closely, but I mean, I think we've seen kind of with Joe Willock coming in January for Newcastle, it's been a good one, especially kind of on his debut, scored scored that wonderful goal. And I just think kind of that attacking partnership that we've seen with a few players, especially when Alan comes on, and his kind of his creativity and his play, but his fitness is kind of still not there with that kind of the effects of long COVID. I mean, it has been a tricky one for being without him for roughly about 3 months, I suppose. We've just not really seen those results. I mean, towards the end of last season, we saw some really good performances from Alan St-Maximin, as they say. He's kind of he creates those chances that I think Newcastle just sort of need, and without him, we've kind of been missing something, kind of that little spark. And there's only so much certain players can do without kind of that creation in the midfield. Whereas Alan Maximin's, he sort of has that pace. He has the kind of creativity that we need to create those chances. And I think if we can get a good kind of, we often see with John Joe Selvey, sort of kind of, it's that ball over the top. It's that kind of hoof it down, hoof it long, and kind of hope for the best sort of thing. Whereas we need to kind of play as a sort of a whole team kind of attacking in a way where sometimes we just don't see that. And sometimes we just see kind of the whole team sitting off in kind of a 4 at the back, kind of 4 in midfield, kind of, it just doesn't really work. And I think it's just getting those opportunities up front. And I think that's kind of what it comes down to. And when we see that team, kind of the team fighting for it and kind of caring, as we did see a couple of weeks ago, it really kind of, we get those chances that we need, to be honest with you.
So how do you see this game going then? What do you think is going to take place?
I mean, it's a tricky one again, because as we say, Wolves have got a kind of a strong team, and we often, especially on the counter, we don't defend well. I think certainly an area of improvement, we've got Joe Willock, we've got Callum Wilson up in attack. We've got the potential in sort of forwards and strikers, but at the moment, our defence looks not fantastic. It looks like it can be kind of attacked on the counter, or we just don't really find the way to defend to the best of our ability, in my opinion. And I just think this, at the end of the day, I don't see our team kind of performing as a unit and fighting for it. I mean, when we see that fight, we see the fight, but at the end of the day, in the last couple of games, certainly we've not kind of seen that. And I think if we go ahead, we've got the potential. But I personally, as a Newcastle fan myself, and I always obviously want the best for the team, but I don't see that kind of. I just don't see us kind of connecting against this Wolves side.
Yeah, I mean, set pieces is definitely a weakness of Wolves. They're not brilliant from them. And again, crosses as well. We can be very passive in defence. But we've only got about a minute or so left on this. So, quick score prediction. What do you think?
I mean, I personally think 2-1 Wolves, maybe 1-1 Wolves. I mean, I think we were discussing before this, that the last 4 matches between Wolves and Newcastle have ended 1-1. So, are we going to see a repeat of that? But I think it will be quite close. But I think potentially Wolves have got that kind of extra edge against us. Yeah.
I'm going to go with a hopeful 2-1, but it'll probably be 1-1, let's be honest. It's just one of those games. I reckon an early Newcastle goals, and Wolves equalise, and then the game just kind of plays out kind of quite boring from about 60th minute. I think that's probably a fair assessment. Thank you, Matt, and thanks to the producer. I think they were probably expecting a couple of more sparks there, but we had quite a nice discussion about Newcastle.
We're quite content in the fact that our teams are performing quite to the ability that they should be at the moment.
Yeah, I could tell the way you were just sort of sitting there smiling. It looks very.
I didn't realise I was back on screen. I'll be honest, I was just listening to you both.
Yeah, you looked very cosy there. Well, let's move on to our final topic for today then, for the last 15 or 10-15 minutes, which is boxing. The old 1-2, you see that technique. AJ and Fury is going to be the big fight. Of course, I'm pretty sure it's this year, right? It's supposed to be this year. Fury put something on Twitter. Yeah. I don't know whether that was
it's supposed to be. There's kind of a lot of it's up in the air, isn't it? I guess it's there's no confirmed kind of date, but it's kind of this kind of back and forth kind of building up to things, and kind of not saying, obviously they've been back and forth with each other quite a lot, but they've just not really they've not confirmed anything as such.
Yeah, definitely. Now, interestingly, according to our researching team and also Twitter, Tyson Fury has been pictured in a McDonald's. I feel like a tabloid journalist. Tyson Fury has been pictured in a McDonald's and apparently slightly overweight. Say that to his face, I dare you. So a few people are questioning his sort of fitness for this fight. Is this an unfair assessment, Sam? Because let's be honest, right? I've been sat here in my flat for 5-6 months now, and the amount of McDonald's I've had is criminal. Right? I should be dead, to be honest. Like, I should be dead, and I probably will be in 10 years because of this. But I have had a lot of McDonald's. Is it so wrong for him just to enjoy Big Mac? Enjoy Filet-O-Fish.
The thing with Tyson Fury has always been about the bounce back, right? My love and whatever of boxing is not the strongest. It's not, it's not tennis or football or cricket to me. But the thing about Tyson Fury was always he was a bit big, compared to the other boxers in his weight division, and then he had that comeback and lost the weight, and the mental health battles, came back, won them. For me, McDonald's is a comfort food for everybody, right? Unless you're vegan or an animal food protection, whatever, activist. Yeah. It's a comfort food. And the last year, without wanting to sound too controversial, has been difficult. So allowing a man to eat a McDonald's during a global pandemic, for me, is fine. Him putting on a couple of pounds. It's been locked down 3 times. It's been Christmas into a lockdown. Yeah, probably he gets an exemption and he's allowed to train. But why would he? I know there's the fight coming up with AJ, but if it's not confirmed and definitely, not a definite by this date I need to be this way and this ready for it, why shouldn't he be allowed to just be a little bit overweight, enjoying a Big Mac, being with his family?
One McDonald's, what is one McDonald's going to do? I mean, I've had like 3 this week, so I can't comment myself, but we've seen Anthony Joshua in the fitness of his life fighting against Anthony Ruiz, and he still got he lost to Anthony Ruiz, who you would say would come in comparison to Anthony Joshua was perhaps
a fat Mexican,
a little bit on the overweight side, as we're describing Fury, and Fury has often come, I'm going to beat you as a fat man from wherever, and you see this kind of thing and you just think, like, is it all about this kind of like being this slim kind of muscle machine that Anthony Joshua is? We've seen him get beat by Ruiz. Sorry, it kind of at this sort of, no one would come in and say, oh, Ruiz was in the form of his life, and Anthony Joshua got dropped by him at the end of the day. So one McDonald's, is it really that big of a deal? At the end of the day, I personally don't think it is. I don't think that's going to make the most difference. Once there's a date, once he's back into camp, Fury, he's going to be lethal as he is.
Can I also point out there was that documentary on BBC as well, which can't have helped. I seem to think that there was a relationship between Fury and the guy it was about. I could be completely wrong, but that's all I've seen. That doesn't help. If loads of sudden public scrutiny comes on you, with everything else that's going on about your relationship with this person, then yeah, you've got every right to be a little bit, overweight if he is, eating a McDonald's if he was,
For the watchers, by the way, Sam, do you mind explaining what documentary you're on about?
There was a panorama thing, 2 weeks ago, about an Irish mob boss or something like that. That's how they described him anyway. And they looked into it and they found him guilty of doing something. I'm pretty sure there was a relationship between Fury and him, though, because there was some big thing about why do we keep giving Fury airtime after that had happened. But yeah, I could be completely wrong, in which case, point rescinded. But there was a lot of scrutiny when that came out about his relationship with Fury. So I don't think that helped Fury in any way.
Yeah. Were they lovers? You just kept saying relationship. I was like, I've got to ask the question. Is he taking this fight seriously? I guess would be the question that people would ask. But we don't even know if the fight's going to happen. So, I still think that Fury could win. I think he's got that. Don't give a damn attitude. He believes in himself.
He's got that knockout ability, hasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And I just think that, I don't know, if he steps into the ring with AJ, I believe that Fury would have a bit more grit about him. I don't know what it is about Fury, but he's been through so much and he's still managed to come back and perform to the level that he has. For me, shows an insane amount of character. People don't realise how difficult it is to actually come out of a hole when you're in that hole. I see him as a big inspiration, to be honest. And I think a lot of people should see him as a big inspiration for what he's been able to achieve with all the problems that he's had. And I think people will underestimate how much that has toughened him up. He will be unbeatable mentally. There's no way that AJ will beat him mentally in this fight. No way. Because Fury's been through everything. He got knocked down twice by Deontay Wilder, got up, got a draw, controversially a draw as well. Many people said he should have won the fight. This is a guy that has seen a lot of adversity and he's overcome it every single time. And I definitely think that if he was to fight AJ, I don't think AJ has overcome that much adversity. Okay, he lost to a guy who was fat, but that's about it. Maybe I'm sure AJ's gone through some stuff as well, but I just believe in Fury a little bit more. I don't know what it is. There's just something about Fury that just gives it sort of lights a fire in you a little bit. He's got a fantastic spirit. I don't know what else. I don't know what you guys think.
No, definitely. I mean, I agree that, we've seen him when he fought Deontay Wilder and he got knocked down and he got back up like nothing had happened almost. And there was all those kind of videos going around of him getting up to, The Undertaker's kind of, he just sat up, didn't he, after sort of 7 seconds of being absolutely dropped by this absolute beast of a man. And you just think, he's got that fight within him that, fair play to him. He wants it and you can see that he wants it. And also, you see in kind of his public kind of appearances, he doesn't really care to a certain degree that like he's just kind of this, the way he's kind of turned around his life, from being this kind of quite controversial character to now where he's kind of looked up to as sort of this inspiration for how he's got through these sort of mental health problems. I mean, I think it's certainly something to kind of look up to.
Let's quickly move on then to end off the show. Jake Paul versus Ben Askren, the MMA fighter.
Yeah.
Mixed martial arts. He's going to be fighting Jake Paul, apparently, on the 17th of April, according to his Twitter, I think, which is an interesting thing, I guess. Jake Paul, no one likes him, really. We'd love to see him getting absolutely battered. Still yet to fight KSI. I think that's the fight that everyone's really sort of going for. I don't know whether you guys have Leeds Fest tickets, but they seem to be trending. Obviously, KSI is performing there, so maybe you can call out Jake Paul at Leeds Fest. That would be a turn up for the Bucks. But I mean,
that's going to be a bit secure. Yeah, I just think I don't know. I just think kind of Jake Paul, Ben Askren. Is Ben Askren this kind of character that? Obviously, he's an MMA fighter, but he's not kind of he's not a Conor McGregor, is he? At the end of the day, he's not this massive figure of MMA. He's not kind of the pinnacle that kind of, as much as I personally am not a massive fan of Jake Paul, you know, he is kind of this well-known figure of kind of YouTube, of internet culture, of that sort of pop culture kind of. Whereas Ben Askren, he's not that massive figure within MMA that sort of Jake Paul is. So I think it's going to be an interesting one. He's not, you know, Jake Paul is often being kind of praised on his technique, on his kind of ability. Obviously, not that he's a professional boxer, but as a YouTuber and as a sort of social media star, he's got that kind of he has got some element of ability that people go, yeah, you know, he's actually not that bad. He is quite good. So I think it's going to be an interesting fight. But do I think he's going to have that sort of ability to beat Ben? But, you know, it's a tricky one at the end of the day. And I think he could do, but because, you know, it's not Ben's strong point being being an MMA fighter, going at it with Jake Paul as a boxer. So, you know, it could be interesting. But if he beats him, has he then got a claim to kind of go on to bigger things, say with KSI, with other sort of bigger personalities? Obviously, we've seen his brother Logan Paul kind of going at it with Floyd Mayweather, and they were supposed to fight, and now that's been postponed. And kind of, it's definitely an interesting situation. And now that we see kind of this transition from people in boxing and MMA kind of accepting the Pauls and accepting people in that sort of what was defined as YouTube boxing, it's definitely going to be an interesting one to see how people in the future down the line. Obviously, Jake Paul tried to call out Conor McGregor, and it sort of didn't really work. So I think certainly if he beats Ben here, then it's going to be an interesting one going down the line. Kind of, he's got that validity that he's beat someone who's actually in the sport. So yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one to see how that sort of turns out.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm looking forward to that, to be fair. Hopefully Jake Paul loses. I'm not massively keen on the guy. But look, let's end it off there. We've sort of run out of time. So thanks for watching. Again, I am enjoying these live shows. We are going to be doing a live show, I believe, next Sunday for the Manchester Derby. We're going to be doing a live watch-along. It's the first time we've ever done anything like this. So we are starting to sort of dip into different mediums, I guess, or different entertainment sectors. So I might, if I can get a City fan on, I might try and see if we can get one on, or a United fan as well. That would be quite good. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But I hope you can join us next Sunday for that. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. Thanks again to Matt and Sam for joining me. These two little guys be underneath me, so I'm the head honcho apparently. I don't know why.
No, just not up there.
Yeah, also make sure to subscribe, because most of the people who watch our videos aren't subscribed. So if you are watching this, click the subscribe button. You get more content like this. You get to see our beautiful faces every week, which, I mean, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. You get amazing content. The producers work really hard on bringing stuff like this to you. So it's just half a second of your time. Just click on that button. And make sure to show us some support. But I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Have a great weekend. Make sure to watch out for that Newcastle Wolves score, and just think about either of us either crying or being
one of us will be happy either way.
Or neither of us. So
well, yeah,
exactly. So we hope you enjoyed the episode, and we hope you can join us for the next one. But until then, take care.
Bye, guys.
Watch out.